Picture this. You stand at dawn, the air thick with silence, yet your mind is already noisy. Thoughts clash like steel on steel. Doubts push against discipline, and fear whispers its sharp commands. You don't need a battlefield of smoke and explosions to feel under siege. You carry one inside your own head. Every unanswered email, every shift in the market, every unexpected message feels like an ambush. The war isn't out there, it's here, between your ears. And unless you train for it, chaos will rule your choices. Most people drift through their days unaware that they're reacting like rookies in a war game. An insult lands and they flare up. A plan collapses and they crumble. A delay appears and they spiral. Their operating system is panic. It's not weakness, it's wiring. The human brain is designed to treat every disruption as a predator crouched in the grass. Cortisol spikes, adrenaline floods, and the heart beats faster. That primal wiring once saved lives. Today, it mostly ruins conversations, burns opportunities, and clouds judgment. The problem isn't the stress response itself. The problem is your lack of tactical training to use it. That's where your edge begins. A tactical mindset isn't about pretending you're emotionless, nor about bluffing with fake confidence. It's about acknowledging your biology, understanding the patterns of panic, and building a system that lets you step outside the fog. Imagine the difference between a soldier who panics at first fire and one who has drilled for it 100 times. You know which one survives. You know which one wins. And here's the reality check. You've been trained for comfort, not combat. You've been encouraged to avoid discomfort, to pursue ease, to equate safety with success. That's why the first rejection shakes you, why the unexpected delay rattles you, why a simple failure can derail your momentum for days. But comfort breeds fragility. Ease makes you brittle. You cannot wait for the world to be smooth. You must train for its rough edges. This audiobook is not a cheerleading routine. It's a field manual. You'll be given drills, frameworks, and battle-tested habits to fortify your mind. Across 13 sections, you'll master the arts of calm under fire, contingency planning, inner command, micro-battle victories, tactical patience, battlefield adaptability, room reading intelligence, rebound power, terrain control, and more. Each is a weapon, each is armor, and together they form your tactical kit. Your first weapon? Understanding that success is not about what happens to you, it's about how you respond. Two people face the same setback. One collapses, the other recalibrates and advances. Same storm, different outcomes. The only difference is tactical thinking. Let's make this practical. Right now, think of the last time you lost your composure. Maybe you fired back an angry text, or maybe you froze in silence. Replay it. That moment was your untrained brain grabbing the wheel. But imagine if you had a system, a gap between trigger and reaction, a protocol ready to execute. That's what tacticians build. It's the chessboard in your head, while everyone else is still swiping checkers. So let's carve your foundation. The tactical mindset begins with 3 mental frameworks, anchors that prevent you from being swept into chaos. Framework 1. Control the controllable. The moment chaos hits, you ask, what here is mine to own? Your mind will want to sprawl into panic, to chew on every angle, to catastrophize. Pull it back. Focus only on the levers you can actually move. That alone reduces 70% of wasted energy. Consider an athlete who misses a key shot. They don't control the crowd, the referee, or the past second. They control their breath, their posture, and their next move. That's it, and that's enough. Framework 2. Response over reaction. Reaction is raw, hot, and costly. Response is calculated, cool, and intentional. Between the spark and the fire, there is always a gap. Expand that gap. Fill it with evaluation. What outcome do I want from this moment? If you can buy just 3 seconds of clarity, you upgrade your choice from instinct to strategy. Framework 3. Every setback is a signal. The average person says, "Why me?" The tactician asks, "What's this teaching me?" A botched deal might be signaling poor preparation. A failed relationship might be signaling ignored boundaries. A health scare might be signaling neglected routines. Signals hurt, but they point the way forward. Pain is simply tuition, if you pay attention. Now, these frameworks aren't abstract theory. Let's test them in real life. Meet Aaron, a small business owner whose store collapsed during the pandemic. Revenue dropped 80% in a month. Most would have folded. Aaron paused, applied the frameworks. What can I control? Delivery, community connection, online reach. How do I respond, not react? Pivot calm, not panic. What's the signal? Adapt to digital or be left behind. Within weeks, she rebuilt, stronger than before. That's tactical thinking in motion. But you don't need a global crisis to train this. You need only your daily frictions. The late train, the difficult colleague, the unexpected bill. These are your training grounds. Each is a chance to pause, control what you can, respond instead of reacting, extract a signal, small drills, daily discipline. This is how you forge armor. Still, you might be wondering, why do some people freeze when chaos hits, while others advance? Science gives part of the answer. When your amygdala hijacks your brain, rational thought shrinks. Tactical training rewires this pattern. Through repetition, you teach your nervous system that the storm is not death, that discomfort is survivable. Navy SEALs practice controlled breathing in freezing surf for exactly this reason. Fighter pilots rehearse emergency drills until muscle memory overrides panic. You can apply the same principle. Your drills may not involve bullets, but they do involve bosses, deadlines, and personal storms. Different terrain, same tactics. Let's press further. To shift from reactivity to strategy, you must internalize 3 mental shifts. Shift 1. Emotion to evaluation. Feelings aren't facts. That knot in your stomach may scream, "You're doomed." But evaluation asks, what's actually happening here? Keep a journal if you must. List the facts, not the fears. Over time, you'll separate signal from noise. Shift 2. Drama to data. Drama drains energy. Data builds wisdom. Instead of saying, "This always happens to me," say, "This is the 3rd time in 6 months I missed a deadline. Why?" Turn the soap opera into a case study. Tacticians are analysts, not dramatists. Shift 3. Paralysis to precision. The untrained mind wants the perfect solution before moving. That's paralysis. The tactician wants the next best step. Precision doesn't mean flawless. It means decisive. 1 step forward beats 1,000 imagined moves. These shifts may sound small, but they compound. Think of a pilot correcting a course by just 1 degree. Over time, that tiny correction means landing in a different continent. So it is with your daily mindset corrections. Each 1 degree shift keeps you out of the storm and on target. Here's your first tactical drill. Pre-decide your reactions. Write 3 simple rules now. For example, if I'm criticized, I pause, breathe, and respond after 10 minutes. If my plan falls apart, I wait 24 hours before making a new one. If I feel overwhelmed, I write down my top 3 priorities before doing anything else. These aren't rigid commands. They're safety lines. In the fog of emotion, you grab them and climb back to clarity. And here's a mantra worth engraving. I don't break. I bend and bounce. Rigidity snaps under pressure. Flexibility absorbs, adapts, and advances. You don't need to cling to the illusion of control. You need to master controlled adaptability. Life is not predictable terrain. It's shifting sand. Build your footing on principles, not on perfect plans. Consider another case. Picture Sarah, a young professional blindsided by job loss. The old script would have been panic. I'm ruined. But she had rehearsed contingency habits. Resume updated, contacts nurtured, side skills sharpened. Her pivot was rapid. Within 3 weeks, she was employed again. That wasn't luck. It was tactical foresight. Notice the pattern. Calm, control, clarity. These aren't personality traits. They are trained protocols. The tactical mindset is not about being fearless. It's about being prepared. Not about eliminating chaos, but thriving in spite of it. So let's end this first section by anchoring the truth. Setbacks are inevitable. Panic is optional. You don't need to be superhuman. You need systems. You need frameworks, and you need drills, because life will throw the unexpected your way. The question is, will you collapse, or will you calculate? Will you spiral, or will you strategize? Today you've stepped into the war room. You've seen the terrain inside your mind. You've learned that most people operate as hostages to stress, but tacticians build command posts within. And you've been given your first set of tools. Control the controllable. Respond, not react. Read setbacks as signals. You've practiced your first drills, pre-decided reactions, mantras, mental shifts. Already, your mind is stronger than when you began. And now, without pausing, without breaking rhythm, we march forward. Chaos doesn't announce itself politely. It kicks down your door and demands instant reaction. A client cancels without warning. Your child gets sick. Your boss moves a deadline forward. Traffic traps you when you're already late. In those moments, your nervous system screams one thing: hurry. Your chest tightens, your pulse spikes, your breathing shortens, and your brain rushes to find a quick escape. You think speed will save you, but often it only digs the hole deeper. This is the trap most people fall into, confusing frantic motion with effective action. Now picture the opposite. Picture a Navy SEAL in freezing surf, waves slamming, chaos everywhere. Instructors bark orders, muscles shake, lungs burn. Yet what's the first thing those instructors teach? Control your breath. Inhale through the nose, exhale slow. Reset your system. Why? Because when your body slows, your brain wakes up. Calm is not weakness. It's a weapon. And this is your next lesson. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. At first, the phrase sounds contradictory, slowing down when everything screams, move faster. But think about surgery. A surgeon doesn't rush, even when life is on the line. Hands steady, breath measured, each movement deliberate. That precision saves lives. Panic kills them. Or consider a fighter pilot. When alarms blare and lights flash, the pilot doesn't thrash at every control. They run their checklist, calmly, step by step, because they know clarity beats speed. This principle applies to you too, whether you're drafting an urgent report, navigating a tense conversation, or steering your family through a crisis. Chaos manipulates time. It tricks you into thinking urgency equals importance. You feel compelled to act now, without reflection. But tactical training teaches you to pause just long enough to separate noise from necessity. One deep breath can be the difference between an impulsive mistake and a decisive move. That pause is not delay, it's strategy. Here's the science behind it. When panic hits, your amygdala fires off alarms, shifting blood flow away from the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes rational decisions. Your IQ effectively drops under stress, but slow. Deep breathing activates the vagus nerve, lowering heart rate and cortisol, bringing your higher brain back online. In other words, when you slow down, you don't just feel calmer, you think sharper. That's why elite performers drill breathing, visualization, and pacing. It's not mystical, it's neurological. So how do you train calm? Start with the 5-second pause. Whenever triggered by an insult, a delay, a shocking email, force yourself to pause for 5 seconds before speaking or acting. Use those seconds to ask, what outcome do I actually want here? That simple habit rewires your instinct from reaction to response. Next, practice box breathing. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Repeat for a few cycles before a high-stakes meeting or a difficult conversation. It's the same drill Navy SEALs use before breaching a door. It calms the body and centers the mind. Use it at your desk, in your car, even in the bathroom if you need privacy. Tactical composure is portable. Another method, mental rehearsal. Athletes, chess grandmasters, even surgeons use visualization to slow down under pressure. Imagine the tough moment before it arrives. Picture yourself receiving criticism, missing a shot, or facing rejection. Now rehearse your response with calm, steady action. When the real moment comes, your brain will recognize the pattern and default to the practiced calm instead of panic. But let's move beyond drills. Let's confront the deeper mindset. Slowness is not laziness, it is precision. Too often you equate slowing down with weakness, as if only the frantic survive. But look at history. Generals who rushed without reconnaissance lost armies. Traders who jumped at every market blip lost fortunes. Parents who overreacted lost their children's trust. Meanwhile, those who breathed, who observed, who delayed just long enough to see the terrain clearly, those were the ones who won. Think of the samurai. Their code demanded composure even at the edge of death. The swordsman who flailed in panic lost. The one who slowed, breathed, and chose a single precise strike survived. The same principle guides modern tacticians. Don't waste energy on frantic moves. Store it, focus it, unleash it only when it counts. Now let's expose the common pitfalls of speed. You've probably rushed a reply to an email and regretted it. You've probably bought something out of fear of missing out, only to regret the purchase later. You've probably spoken in anger, only to spend hours cleaning up the fallout. These are not random accidents. They are the natural consequences of confusing reaction with response. Here's your tactical exercise. Identify your 3 most common rush traps. Maybe it's replying instantly when criticized. Maybe it's buying into urgency at work. Maybe it's committing to too many tasks out of fear of missing out. Write them down. Then design a 5-second or 5-minute delay for each. This is not avoidance. It's recalibration. It keeps your strategy intact when chaos tries to rush you off the board. Consider this real-world case. A young executive once faced a hostile board meeting. Accusations flew, tempers rose. She felt the urge to defend herself instantly, to prove her worth. Instead, she paused, inhaled, exhaled, and let silence linger. The room quieted. She spoke slowly, addressing concerns one by one, her voice steady. The outcome? Respect, not dismissal. Her calm slowed the room down. She became the axis around which chaos rotated. That is power, not the loudest voice, not the fastest reaction, but the calmest presence. Calm is contagious. Just as panic spreads like wildfire, calm spreads like cool water. When you slow, others follow. And soon, you are not just protecting yourself, you are leading the room. Here's another mantra to carry. Speed without direction is destruction. Think of a car speeding blindfolded. That's reaction, slowness with clarity. Though it may appear delayed, actually wins the race. Smooth is fast, because mistakes are minimized, detours avoided, and focus sharpened. The short path is often the slower-looking one, but don't mistake this for passivity. Tactical calm is not about sitting still forever. It's about pacing your response so that when you move with force. A martial artist doesn't flail with 100 punches. They wait for the opening, then strike once with precision. That's the mindset you're training. So, your next drill. Prescript your high-stress responses. Write down 3 situations that consistently throw you off. Criticism, last-minute changes, delays. Decide in advance how you will respond calmly. Then rehearse those responses in your head. When the moment comes, you won't scramble. You'll execute. And remember, calm is not just for big crises. Use it daily. Use it when your child spills juice, when the barista gets your order wrong, when traffic tests your patience. Each is a practice battle. Each is a chance to train your nervous system to default to calm under fire. Small victories build the reflex you'll need when the real storms come. So you walk forward now with a new discipline. You are no longer the one who rushes blindly into the fire. You are the one who breathes, who pauses, who slows just enough to aim. And when you finally move, you move like lightning, smooth, precise, unstoppable. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. You've slowed your pace, steadied your breath, and learned that clarity beats speed. Now the next challenge appears. Uncertainty. Life has a way of tearing up even the best-laid plans. A project is delayed, a key ally withdraws, a market shifts overnight, a storm cancels your event. Suddenly, the map you drew no longer matches the terrain you walk. This is where many lose their nerve. They confuse unpredictability with doom. Their mind leaps to catastrophe. If this fails, I'm finished. That spiral doesn't prepare them. It paralyzes them. Tacticians think differently. They understand a hard truth. No plan survives first contact with reality. Dwight Eisenhower, the Allied commander during World War II, put it plainly. Plans are nothing. Planning is everything. What did he mean? That the act of preparing contingencies, alternate paths, fallback positions, buffers, is more valuable than clinging to a single fragile plan. The tactician knows failure of Plan A isn't the end. It's simply the signal to shift to Plan B, C, or even D. Contrast 2 minds. The catastrophic mind sees one missed call and assumes rejection, one delayed payment and assumes collapse, one silence and assumes abandonment. Every small bump spirals into the worst-case scenario. They are like a soldier who mistakes every rustle in the grass for an ambush. Exhausted, panicked. They retreat before the battle even begins. The contingency mind, however, accepts that obstacles are inevitable. They ask, if this goes wrong, what's my next move? If the supplier fails, who's my backup? If the meeting cancels, how do I reschedule with advantage? If my health dips, what's my recovery plan? This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. Why does catastrophic thinking feel so convincing? Because fear is persuasive. Your amygdala magnifies risk, hijacks rational thought, and convinces you that disaster is certain. But fear, untrained, is just noise. Fear, disciplined, becomes data. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Why does it scare me? What step could I take now to reduce that risk? Suddenly, the fear shrinks. You've converted emotion into intelligence. History offers powerful lessons here. When Netflix once relied heavily on Amazon Web Services and suffered outages, they didn't simply hope it wouldn't happen again. They built Chaos Monkey, a tool that deliberately shut down their own servers to test resilience. It was a contingency drill, planned failure to build strength. Businesses that survive long storms do this instinctively. They rehearse the worst before it arrives. You can do the same in your personal life. Take Sarah, a marketing professional blindsided by job loss. Panic was an option, but she had prepared. Her resume updated monthly, her LinkedIn network active, her side skills sharpened. Within weeks, she had 3 new options. Was she lucky? No. She had rehearsed contingencies. She treated uncertainty as training, not tragedy. Now let's make this personal. Grab a goal in your life, launching a project, strengthening health, growing finances. Write down 3 things that could go wrong. Then write if, then responses for each. If funding delays, then I extend the timeline and seek alternate backers. If my training is interrupted, then I switch to shorter daily drills. If my first attempt fails, then I analyze feedback and repackage. In 10 minutes, you've built a contingency map, a mental war plan. Suddenly, the unknown feels less terrifying because you've given it structure. Another key tactic: buffer zones. Elite performers never cut things to the wire. They pad their schedules, their budgets, their energy. A meeting planned for Monday is internally prepared by Friday. A budget projects 3 months of extra reserves. An athlete schedules recovery as fiercely as training. Why? Because they expect friction. They know life rarely runs on perfect timing. The buffer is the difference between scrambling and steadying. Let's test this in your daily rhythm. Think of how often you're late because you assumed travel time would be exact. Think of how often you've been drained because you booked your calendar edge to edge. Think of how often a single disruption unraveled your day. Buffers solve this. Leave earlier than necessary. Schedule margins around key tasks. Protect energy by saying no to low-value commitments. You are not wasting time. You are buying calm. Now here's a drill. Build your personal contingency map. Choose one high-stakes area. Say, preparing for a major job interview. List 3 possible disruptions. Interviewer cancels. You blank on a question. You don't get the job. Now design if-then responses. If they cancel, I reschedule politely and use the time to practice. If I blank, I pause, breathe, and reframe with honesty. If I don't get the job, I follow up for feedback and expand my network. Suddenly, rejection isn't doom, it's data. Catastrophe has become contingency. Remember this mantra: what if is not a trap, it's a tool. When you ask, what if they say no? Catastrophic thinking stops at despair. Tactical thinking continues. Then I'll ask someone else. When you ask, what if I fail? Catastrophic thinking says, then it's over. Tactical thinking says, then I'll learn and return sharper. Same question, different path. The reward of contingency thinking isn't just survival, it's confidence. You walk into the unknown less rattled because you've rehearsed it. The interviewer may cancel. The deal may collapse. The weather may turn. But you are not broken. You bend. You adjust. You keep moving. Confidence isn't pretending nothing can go wrong. It's knowing that even if it does, you're ready. Here's one final field story. Picture an expedition team crossing dangerous terrain. Halfway through, storms hit, supplies thin. One group panics, insisting the journey is doomed. The other group opens their contingency plan. Alternate routes, ration adjustments, emergency shelters. Who survives? Not the ones who clung to a perfect plan, but the ones who prepared for imperfection. That's you now, a tactician, not shocked by storms, but strengthened by them. So you march forward equipped with new discipline. You don't chase perfection. You build contingencies. You don't spiral into catastrophe. You extract data. You don't collapse when plans bend. You pivot. Planning is not about predicting everything. It's about preparing for anything. The voice in your head never stops talking. Right now, even as you listen, it whispers. It reminds you of mistakes, questions your ability, second guesses your choices. At times, it shouts louder than the outside world. That voice can either be your greatest asset or your deepest sabotage. The strongest warriors are not the ones with the biggest weapons. They are the ones who command their own inner dialogue. You can march into battle with the best strategy in the world. But if your inner voice says, you'll fail, your armor is already cracked. Think about it. You spend more time listening to yourself than to anyone else. No coach, no mentor, no friend speaks to you as often as you do. If that inner dialogue is hostile, it's like carrying an enemy spy inside your walls. But if that voice is trained, disciplined, and commanding, it becomes your most reliable ally. The tactical mindset demands that you seize command of this constant conversation. Here's the brutal truth. Most people let their inner critic run the show. That critic is born from old failures, past rejections, the sting of embarrassment. Over time, those moments collect and become a repeating tape. You stumble once in public, and years later the critic still hisses, "Don't speak up, you'll mess it again." You miss one opportunity, and the critic declares, "You're always behind." It doesn't matter that evidence says otherwise. The critic doesn't care about truth. It cares about control. The tactician does something different. You don't silence the critic with empty affirmations. You replace it with a stronger voice, the inner coach. This is the voice that acknowledges flaws, but directs you towards solutions. It's the commander who doesn't sugarcoat the terrain, yet still pushes you forward. When you miss the shot, the critic screams, "You're hopeless." The coach says, "Reset your stance. Line up again. You've done it before." Which voice will carry you through chaos? Always the one that corrects, not condemns. Let's sharpen the contrast. Imagine facing rejection. The critic says, "You're worthless. Stop trying." The coach says, "They said no, but your preparation improves. Who's next?" The critic thrives on emotion. The coach leads with strategy. Your job is to train the coach until it becomes your default under fire. Step 1. Recognize sabotage scripts. You can't command what you don't identify. Pay attention to your recurring mental lines. "I always screw this up. I'm not ready. They think I'm a joke." Write them down. Get them out of the shadows and into the light. Once written, challenge them. Ask, is this objectively true? What evidence proves the opposite? What would I tell a close ally who said this? Suddenly the critic loses its authority. Step 2. Rewire with power phrases. Words are tools, just like swords or shields. Deployed well, they anchor you. Deployed poorly, they cut you. Begin practicing simple tactical commands. This isn't permanent, it's a phase. I don't need to feel ready, I just need to start. I've done hard things before. I can handle this too. Calm is my advantage. These aren't cheesy affirmations. They're strategic resets. Speak them aloud. Repeat them when stress rises. Repetition forges pathways. The more often you run them, the more automatic they become in battle. Step 3. Speak like a coach. Great athletic coaches don't scream. You're pathetic, they say. You missed. Now focus. Next play. They keep the player locked on growth, not shame. Train yourself to do the same. When you slip, say, "That happened. What's the lesson?" Reset. We're still in the fight. This doesn't excuse mistakes. It weaponizes them into progress. Here's a tactical drill. The voice swap. Recall a moment you stumbled. Late to a meeting. Botched a line. Lost your temper. Write down exactly what your critic said. Maybe, "You're unreliable. Always a screw-up." Then rewrite it as your coach. "You were late. Next time, set 2 alarms. You can fix this." Read both aloud. Feel the difference in energy. Repeat this regularly until the coach's voice dominates the critic's. Why does this work? Neuroscience again. Your brain is a forest of paths. Each thought you think is a step. The more you repeat a thought, the deeper the path becomes. Over time, it becomes a trail you walk by default. That's why negative self-talk feels automatic. You've walked that path for years. But every new thought begins carving an alternate trail. Consistent repetition digs it deeper. Soon, the coach's trail becomes the main road. You literally rewire your mind. Elite performers know this. Navy SEALs chant mantras under duress. UFC fighters whisper cues before stepping into the cage. CEOs rehearse mental scripts before negotiations. They don't leave their internal state to chance. Why should you? Pick 3 tactical scripts right now. Write them, post them, repeat them. They are your mental armor. Another drill. Use tactical journaling. Each evening, write 1 sabotaging thought you heard today. Then rewrite it into a coaching command. This turns reflection into rewiring. Over weeks, you'll see the critic's influence shrink as the coach takes command. Let's look at real-world stories. Michael Jordan, cut from his high school team, could have internalized the critic. "You're not good enough." Instead, he rewrote the script. "I'll train until they can't ignore me." Oprah Winfrey, fired early in her career, could have believed the critic. "You don't belong on television." Instead, she trained her coach. "This setback sharpens me." These weren't magical people. They were disciplined thinkers. They rewired their self-talk. You may wonder, what about honesty? Isn't the critic sometimes right? Yes. Mistakes happen, but the critic distorts them into permanent identity. The coach acknowledges them as temporary events. "You failed this test" versus "you're a failure." One statement is fact, the other is fatal. Tactical self-talk separates the two. So here's your mantra. I command the voice in my head, not silence it, not ignore it, command it. When the critic rises, you don't debate endlessly, you replace, you declare, you coach. As you integrate this, watch your confidence shift. You'll notice fewer spirals, less hesitation, more composure. You'll feel the critic try to rise, but the coach will cut in. "We've got this. Focus forward, and over time, you'll realize you are no longer fighting yourself. You are fighting with yourself, an ally at your side. This is the true tactical advantage. Anyone can learn strategies, but only those who master their inner dialogue can execute them under fire. Your thoughts shape your decisions. Your decisions shape your habits, and your habits shape your destiny. Train the inner voice, and the rest follows. The battlefield outside is unpredictable, but the battlefield inside is yours to command. And you've just taken the first step in turning your greatest saboteur into your greatest strategist. Most people imagine life's victories as grand, cinematic moments, a championship trophy lifted high, a business breakthrough announced on stage, a life-changing deal signed in gold ink. But if you study reality closely, you discover something different. Big triumphs are the visible peaks of mountains built from countless small stones. Those stones are daily choices, minor adjustments, quiet acts of discipline. The real war isn't won in the climactic battle. It's won in the micro-battles, the ordinary decisions no one applauds. Look at your own day. The moment you wake, you face your first fight. Do you rise with purpose or hit the snooze? Later, another skirmish. Do you open your phone and scroll, or do you set intention for the day? Still later, do you finish the task at hand, or let distraction pull you sideways? Each choice seems small, but together, they form the architecture of your life. Fail enough of these micro-battles, and momentum collapses. Win them, and momentum builds like a rolling avalanche. Here's the tactical truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the strength of your systems. Everyone has goals. Get fit, build wealth, improve relationships. But goals are fragile. Systems are steel, and systems are built from repeated victories in the smallest daily battles. Think about James Clear, who became known for atomic habits. His focus wasn't on writing a bestseller. It was on the micro-battle of writing a single page each day. That tiny win, repeated, produced a book that reached millions. Or consider Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. His empire of films and businesses doesn't rest on charisma alone. It rests on the micro-battle of rising at 4 a.m. to train, regardless of schedule. Those victories are invisible, but they compound into strength. Now, let's turn this spotlight on you. What are your 3 most common micro-battles? Maybe it's the fight against the alarm clock. Maybe it's resisting the urge to scroll when you should be working. Maybe it's choosing one healthy meal over junk food. Identify them. Write them down. Don't dismiss them as trivial. Each is a battlefield that shapes your trajectory. Once identified, your task is to create tactical routines. Routines are pre-decided strings of micro-wins. Instead of asking, "Should I work out today?" you already have the rule. Morning equals movement. Instead of asking, "Should I prepare for tomorrow?" your night routine already says, review the day, set priorities, shut down screens. Decision fatigue disappears because the choice was made before the battle began. But here's the nuance. Not all micro-battles are equal. Some moments carry leverage. One decision cascades into many. The first hour after waking sets the rhythm of the day. The first bite of a meal often determines whether the rest is healthy. The first 5 minutes of discomfort decide whether you quit or push through. Tactical thinkers identify these leverage moments and treat them like choke points on a battlefield. Win the leverage moment, and you tilt the whole campaign. Let's test this idea with your mornings. Suppose your first battle is against the snooze button. Lose it, and your morning is late, rushed, reactive, win it, and suddenly you have time to hydrate, move, plan, and claim momentum before others even start. That single micro battle flips the trajectory of hours ahead. This is leverage. Now, let's bring in science. Psychologists talk about the compound effect. Every aligned choice strengthens neural pathways, training resilience and focus. Each misaligned choice trains avoidance and weakness. There is no neutral. Every decision is training something. So ask yourself daily, what am I training right now? Discipline or distraction? Resilience or avoidance? Case study. Imagine a young analyst in finance. Everyone around him pulls all-nighters before deadlines. He decides instead to win micro battles, closing his laptop at a set hour, waking early, and using disciplined routines. Over months, he doesn't burn out like his peers. His performance compounds quietly, and soon he outpaces those who looked busier, but crumbled under fatigue. His edge was not heroic, it was micro. So here's your tactical drill. Choose 3 micro battles you'll commit to winning for 7 days straight. Maybe wake without snooze, do a 10-minute focus block before lunch, and review the day each evening. Attach each to a trigger. When the alarm rings, stand up and drink water. Before lunch, set a timer and focus. At 9 p.m., open your notes app and reflect. Track them daily. Watch how 3 small wins reshape your confidence. Of course, you will slip. Everyone does. The tactician's advantage is not perfection, but recovery. When you lose a micro battle, you don't spiral. You reset fast. I missed the morning, but I'll win the next hour. Small recoveries maintain momentum. Average thinkers wait for a new week or new year. Tacticians restart the same day, same moment. That speed of reset is itself a micro-victory. Let's bring in a story from history. The Roman legions didn't win by one grand maneuver. They advanced by disciplined steps, shields locked, formation unbroken. Each step was small, almost boring, but together, they conquered continents. The micro-battles of formation maintenance built an empire. Your shield wall is your daily habits. Keep them intact, and you advance steadily. Another example, Serena Williams. Her matches are not decided only by her serves, but by hundreds of small points. Footwork, focus, responses to unforced errors. Each point is a micro-battle. She trains herself to reset instantly after a lost point, refusing to let one slip destroy momentum. That is tactical discipline in motion. Here's a mantra. Micro battles decide the war. Remember it when you're tempted to dismiss a choice as minor. Remember it when you think skipping the routine doesn't matter. Every battle matters. Every choice compounds. So let's conclude this march. Success is rarely a thunderclap. It's usually a drumbeat, quiet, steady, relentless. You don't need a miracle. You need rhythm. Win the morning, win the hour, win the uncomfortable moments. Stack them, repeat them, protect them, and one day, others will call you lucky, never realizing you simply won more micro battles than they did. Impulses are fast, seductive, and often destructive. You've felt it. The surge of anger when criticized, the rush of excitement at a sudden opportunity, the sting of rejection that makes you want to quit instantly. In those moments, your mind doesn't want to think, it wants to strike. Yet look back on your life and you'll find many regrets were born in the heat of an impulse. An email you wish you hadn't sent, words you wish you hadn't spoken, decisions you wish you hadn't rushed. What if there were a rule that could protect you from those costly mistakes? There is. It's called the 24-hour rule. At its core, the 24-hour rule is simple. When emotions run hot, you wait before making a major decision or response. 24 hours of space between the trigger and your action. That pause doesn't erase the problem. It simply allows the storm to pass so you can see clearly. Neuroscience proves this. Emotional states peak quickly, but fade if not constantly fueled. Anger, fear, jealousy, all burn brightest in the first minutes, then dim within hours. If you act at the peak, you act from your lowest intelligence. If you wait, your higher brain regains command. Let's make this vivid. Picture yourself in a meeting where your manager embarrasses you with harsh criticism. Your blood surges. Your mind writes a blistering response email. You almost send it. But you invoke the 24-hour rule. You draft, save, and walk away. The next day, you reread. The fire is gone, replaced by clarity. You edit the email into a strategic, measured reply. Instead of destroying a relationship, you strengthen it. That is the shield of patience. History and business are full of leaders who understood this principle. Jeff Bezos often spoke of his regret minimization framework. Before making a decision, he'd ask, "In 10 years, will I regret this?" That mental zoom out is a version of the 24-hour rule. It shifts you from the narrowness of now to the perspective of later. Similarly, great military commanders rarely launched attacks in anger. They paused, considered, and often found smarter timing. Those who rushed, they bled. You may wonder, doesn't waiting risk losing opportunities? Sometimes urgency is real, but more often, urgency is illusion. Emotional urgency is not the same as strategic urgency. Fear says, act now or lose everything. But tacticians ask, what truly requires action now? What can wait? This distinction saves fortunes, reputations, and futures. So how do you apply the rule? Step 1. Identify your emotional triggers. Is it criticism, rejection, sudden offers? Write them down. Awareness is armor. Step 2. Design your fallback action. When triggered, instead of acting, you do something else. Take a walk, journal, breathe, consult a trusted ally. Step 3. Set your delay boundary. Tell yourself, no major decisions until tomorrow. The boundary becomes your battlefield line. Let's create practical scripts. When pressed for a response, you can say, I'll need a day to think on that. Let me reflect and get back to you tomorrow. This deserves a thoughtful answer. I'll follow up soon. These aren't evasions. They are tactical shields, protecting you from acting out of raw emotion. Consider the difference in outcomes. Reaction burns bridges, ruins deals, damages trust. Response builds clarity, preserves relationships, and often reveals opportunities hidden beneath the chaos. Think of a trader who panics at market dips, selling everything in fear. Contrast with one who waits 24 hours, analyzes calmly, and makes a measured move. The patient trader compounds wealth. The panicked one compounds loss. Here's a drill for you. Choose one domain where you tend to react: family, work, finance. Create a personal 24-hour rule. For example, when I feel angry at home, I will not speak on it until tomorrow. Or, when I receive a tempting financial offer, I will not decide for 24 hours. Practice this for a week. Track how many regrets you avoid. You'll be shocked at the difference. Now, let's sharpen this principle further. Sometimes you don't have a full day. Emergencies arise, a medical crisis, a safety threat, a battlefield decision. Waiting is impossible. Even then, tacticians apply a micro version of the rule. Pause internally. Even 5 seconds of deep breathing can shift your brain from panic to poise. The rule is not about exact hours. It's about resisting the tyranny of impulse. Here's a story. A young entrepreneur once received an angry email from an investor. Every instinct screamed to reply instantly, to defend her reputation. She drafted a furious response, but she remembered the 24-hour rule. She waited. The next day, the investor emailed again, apologizing for his own rash words, admitting stress had clouded him. Had she reacted, the partnership would have ended. Because she waited, it strengthened. Patience turned potential disaster into deeper trust. Another example, a professional athlete tempted to announce retirement after a crushing defeat. Emotions screamed finality, but by waiting, perspective shifted. Instead of ending, they recalibrated training, returned stronger, and eventually won a championship. The loss wasn't the end, it was fuel. The 24-hour rule was the bridge. So carry this mantra. Delay is not weakness. Delay is discipline. Waiting doesn't mean avoiding decisions. It means owning them. It means refusing to let your weakest state dictate your strongest moves. As you integrate this, you'll notice a transformation. Situations that once triggered instant regret now become opportunities for measured power. People will wonder at your composure. They'll notice you don't lash out, don't panic, don't fold under pressure. You'll appear calm, not because life is easier, but because you've trained yourself to wait. The battlefield of emotion is ruthless, but with the 24-hour rule, you build a fortress. You buy time for clarity, you trade impulse for strategy, and in doing so, you protect not only your present decisions, but your future self. Don't react, respond. Your perfect plan rarely survives first contact with reality. Yesterday's timelines slip. A key resource disappears. A new constraint ambushes you from the flank. After learning to delay your impulses, you face the next discipline, adapting without losing momentum. Rigid minds try to force the world back into their blueprint. Tacticians reshape themselves to the terrain while holding the objective steady. The storm is not a sign to retreat. It is a signal to command the moment and move. You already know the pattern. The meeting you prepared for is suddenly rescheduled. The supplier fails. The family situation changes. Most people freeze or fling themselves into frantic effort, burning energy on the plan they wish they still had. You, instead, accept the broken map and raise your eyes to the horizon. Mission over method, purpose over pride. You bend without breaking, and then you advance. Think of adaptability as disciplined flexibility. It is not indecision. It is the art of moving from one viable route to another at the exact speed the situation requires. On the battlefield, this shows up as a unit-shifting formation when the enemy changes direction. In daily life, it's you rebuilding a schedule midday, changing the briefing you planned, or switching the tool that no longer fits. The principle is simple. The objective remains. Paths are negotiable. You run this with an inner loop. OODA. Observe, orient, decide, act. Observe. What is actually happening now, not what you hoped would happen. Orient. What does it mean in this terrain, with these resources, under this time constraint? Decide. Pick the next best move, not the perfect one. Act. Execute with commitment. Then loop again. In chaos. You cycle that loop faster than the problem evolves, not by rushing, but by removing hesitation. To keep your head clear, anchor yourself in commander's intent, a concise statement of outcome and boundaries. Secure X by Y without compromising Z. When the fine-grained plan shatters, intent gives you authority to improvise. You also define invariants, the few things that must not change regardless of conditions: safety, ethics, budget caps, non-negotiable standards. Everything else can flex. Burn the map, keep the compass. Now, make adaptability practical. First, set pivot criteria in advance, so emotion does not decide for you. Define the thresholds that automatically trigger a change of course. The metric you must hit by a certain date, the cost ceiling you won't cross, the risk level you won't tolerate. When a threshold is tripped, you pivot by rule, not by panic. Call this your kill switch matrix. Second, build option stacks. For every critical function, list at least 2 alternate paths, alternate suppliers, alternate roles, alternate tools, alternate workflows. If one node fails, the system routes around the damage. In health, if running hurts your knee, you switch to rowing or cycling. In finance, if one client pauses, you have 2 prospects already warming. Options are the scaffolds that keep you moving while the main structure is repaired. Third, create slack. Buffers are not laziness, they're armor. A calendar with 0 margin shatters under the first surprise. A budget with no reserve crumbles at the first overrun. Protect time blocks that are untouchable. Maintain a small cache of money and energy, and leave white space around decisive tasks. A system with slack absorbs shock and keeps fighting. Fourth, institutionalize review. Run pre-mortems before you start. If this failed spectacularly, what likely caused it? And after-action reviews when you finish. What did we expect? What happened? Why? And what will we change? Keep a pivot ledger, a lightweight log of course changes, triggers, and results. Patterns will surface. You'll pivot sooner, cleaner, and with less drama each cycle. Let's walk the terrain with stories. A neighborhood restaurant faces a sudden lockdown. Foot traffic vanishes. The rigid path says, "Wait it out." The adaptive path rewrites the mission from serve full dining experiences to deliver comfort and consistency to homes. Menus shrink to travel-worthy dishes. Packaging is standardized. Online ordering is set up in a week, and a tiny studio corner is built to post cooking reels. Within a month, revenue stabilizes at a sustainable floor. Not luck, speed of adaptation under clear intent. Or take an athlete who tears a ligament weeks before a peak event. Mission: return stronger without re-injury. The method, heavy running, dies. The plan pivots to swimming, upper body strength, breathwork, and film study. They meet with a nutritionist, double their sleep, sharpen their mental rehearsal. While others see setback, the adaptive athlete sees window. When the body heals, the engine of discipline is already running hot. Performance surges, not in spite of the pivot, but because of it. Your greatest enemy here is not chaos, it is cognitive bias. Sunk cost fallacy makes you defend broken plans because you've invested time, money, and ego. Loss aversion tempts you to play, not to lose, rather than to win. Identity fusion locks you to the way I've always done it. Combat these with a mantra: loyal to mission, agnostic to method. You are not your plan. You are the person who achieves the outcome. Adapting is not always grand. Most days it's micro pivots. The train stalls, so you turn the platform into a thinking block. A childcare emergency nukes your afternoon, so you convert the evening into 2 deep work sprints and shelve the low-value tasks. Your brain fogs after lunch, so you walk 10 minutes, hydrate, and re-enter with a single target task. Each micro-pivot preserves momentum. A day saved is a week saved. Communication determines whether your pivot carries others with you. Use calm radio, short, clear, steady transmissions. Report the situation, state intent, assign next actions. Supplier A failed. Intent is on-time delivery without quality loss. Moving to supplier B. Finance confirms Delta. Packaging team adjusts by 4 p.m. No blame, no panic, no vagueness. People follow clarity. Your tone is a stabilizer bar. Quiet confidence that says, "We've got this." How do you know when to pivot versus persevere? Use 5 questions as a field triage. 1. Is the obstacle external and persistent, or transient and internal? 2. Are key leading indicators trending away from our target, despite sound execution? 3. Is the plan violating our invariance, budget, ethics, safety? 4. Do small course corrections fail to produce movement? 5. Does an alternative path offer higher expected value with available resources? If yes, keep stacking, pivot. If no, refine and hold. Equip yourself with simple tooling. A visible dashboard with red, amber, green signals for your few crucial metrics. A daily 10-minute stand to scan deviations, decide micro-pivots, and protect the mission's choke points. A ruthless 80-20 triage that positions your best effort where it produces outsized effect. Kill the darlings, nice-to-haves that steal capacity from must-wins. Adaptation is as much subtraction as it is invention. Tie this back to composure. The pause you trained earlier makes space for orientation. The slow is smooth principle stops you from flailing. The 24-hour rule prevents ego pivots. Adaptation lives in that pocket of poise. You're not abandoning plans whimsically. You're steering with intelligence. The loop is breath, scan, decide, strike, repeat. Here's your tactical drill. Pivot readiness check. Choose one active mission. Write a single-sentence commander's intent. List 3 invariants you will not violate. Define 2 pivot triggers, metric and date. Prepare an option stack. Plan A, B, C. Assign the first 24-hour actions for each. Who is called, what is cut, what is protected, what is shipped. Place the sheet where you work. When stress rises, you won't improvise from panic. You'll execute from design. Run a second drill. Scenario switch sprints. Once a week for 30 minutes. Rehearse a no-warning change. Key partner withdraws. Power outage for a day. Travel blocked. Force yourself through OODA 3 times. Observe the new facts. Orient against intent. Decide the smallest decisive move. Act. Debrief. You are building neural speed. The ability to change lanes without rolling the car. Add one more layer. The minimum viable pivot. When conditions change, you don't necessarily rebuild the whole operation. You implement the smallest change that restores movement and preserves optionality. Reduce scope by 20% to meet the deadline instead of scrapping the release. Swap a feature for a manual workaround. Reassign one role rather than refactoring the team. The smallest effective pivot lowers risk, buys time, and keeps morale intact because progress stays visible. After any pivot, rebase the map. Many plans fail, not because the pivot was wrong, but because people keep judging results by the old denominators. Reset milestones, renew your capacity estimates, and redefine what win means for the new terrain. Celebrate the first green shoots, small shippable outcomes, so the team feels momentum again. Momentum is medicine. Without it, even smart pivots stall. Watch high-speed environments for inspiration. An F1 pit crew adjusts strategy mid-race when track temperature changes tire degradation. They don't mourn the 2-stop plan. They shift to a 1-stop, recalculating fuel, pace, and overtakes in real time. In software, engineers roll out canary releases, small percentage deployments, to sense problems and pivot safely before scaling. In medicine, emergency teams triage and reroute resources the moment vitals change. Different arenas, same principle. Intent holds, method evolves. Finally, cultivate anti-fragility, the habit of gaining from volatility. Each disturbance teaches you something you could not have learned in calm, a vulnerability to shore up, a redundant path to build, a faster loop to run. Capture those lessons explicitly. Replace brittle single points of failure with parallel options. Turn every strike against you into a rehearsal that makes you harder to break next time. Consider a final field image. In mountain warfare, the map lies often. Weather turns minutes into hours. Paths close. Altitudes punish. Units move by intent, not strict route. They advance by ridgelines, not by pre-drawn arrows. You adopt the same stance. Ridgeline thinking. You keep to the high ground of purpose, traversing around rockfall, bypassing gullies, conserving energy for the final push. The summit is the mission. The switchbacks are the method. Soon you'll notice a shift. Where others see disruption, you see information. Where they waste hours defending yesterday's decision, you spend minutes designing today's reality. You'll be labeled resilient, as if it were a trait. It isn't. It's trained adaptability. Habits layered over principles, executed under pressure. So the plan breaks. You don't. You breathe, scan, adjust, and continue the march. Loyal to mission, agnostic to method. Burn the map, keep the compass, adapt, assess, advance, and win. The most dangerous person in any room is not the one who talks the loudest, throws their weight around, or tries to dominate through fear. The most dangerous person is the one who can sit quietly, scan every corner, sense tension before it erupts, and choose their words with surgical precision. That person is the tactician who has trained strategic emotional intelligence. Most people enter a room like amateurs, stepping onto a battlefield without a map. They're preoccupied with their own armor, how they look, how they sound, whether they'll be respected. In that self-absorption, they miss the enemy movement. They fail to notice who's on edge, who's hiding anger, who's silently disagreeing. They barrel forward blind, and by the time they realize they've stepped into an ambush, it's too late. You are not here to walk blind. You are here to master the unseen layer of every room, the emotional terrain. Words are only half the communication. Tone, posture, pace, silence, and energy carry the rest. If you can't read that terrain, you'll fight ghosts and lose leverage. But when you can, you control yourself, and through yourself, you influence everyone else. Let's sharpen the contrast. The average person interprets every interaction at face value. A nod means agreement. Silence means consent. Smiles mean approval. They miss the crossed arms that scream defensiveness, the quick glance that betrays uncertainty, the overly eager yes that conceals resentment. The tactician sees what others miss. They know silence might be suppression. Smiles can be camouflage. Agreement can be strategy. They listen not just to words, but to what the nervous system is shouting beneath them. First, observe the baseline. Every person has a natural way of carrying themselves. Some speak quickly, some slowly, some use wide gestures, some barely move. By studying baselines, you spot deviations. The colleague who usually speaks smoothly but suddenly stutters, nervous. The manager who is normally direct but grows vague, something hidden, Baselines are your map. Without them, you can't notice when terrain shifts. Second, decode the signals. Arms folded tightly across the chest can mean defense, but combined with short answers and avoidance of eye contact, it signals resistance. Fingers drumming on the table aren't just fidgets, they're impatience. A voice that rises in pitch under stress. A pause that lasts 1 second too long. An overuse of "I agree." These are the cracks in the armor. Tacticians catalog these signals not to exploit people, but to understand what's really happening. Because without truth, you cannot lead. Third, influence with calibration. Once you know the temperature, you can adjust your own flame. Lower your tone when tension spikes. Slow your pace when others are rushing. Ask a question when someone digs into their position. Use silence like a scalpel, letting it hang until the other side fills it with honesty. Influence isn't about force, it's about subtle alignment. Like a general shifting troops to hold the high ground. You shift presence to hold the room. It's not because they lack intelligence. It's because they lack discipline. They're too busy rehearsing their own lines, defending their own egos, or rushing to prove themselves. They ignore the undercurrent in their desperation to stay afloat. But tacticians know. Influence flows from awareness, not assertion. You don't win the room by being heard first. You win it by knowing what everyone else is really saying. In negotiation, a tactician notices the opposing side tapping their pen faster when a particular clause is mentioned. Instead of pushing, they pause, ask a calm question, and uncover the real concern, saving the deal. In leadership, a tactician sees the team member who hasn't spoken in an hour, but shifts uncomfortably every time deadlines are discussed. Instead of plowing ahead, they draw that person out, revealing a resource bottleneck that could have sunk the project. In daily life, a tactician notices a partner's forced smile during a casual conversation. Instead of ignoring it, they gently ask what's wrong, preventing resentment from festering. Each example proves the same law. The room tells you the truth if you have the patience to see it. Step 1. Enter every room with a scan. Before you speak, spend 30 seconds in silent observation. Who's leaning forward? Who's pulling back? Who avoids eye contact? Who dominates space? Step 2. Regulate your own body. Slow breath, relaxed shoulders, controlled tone. You become the calmest presence, and calm spreads. Step 3. Guide lightly. Ask questions that invite, not accuse. Reframe tension by naming it without judgment. It sounds like this feels rushed. That sentence alone can drain poison from the air. Over time, this becomes automatic. People will say you have presence. What they mean is, your nervous system is stable when others are chaotic, and your awareness captures what they miss. Pressure exposes people, raise the stakes in any room, and masks crack. Voices sharpen, bodies stiffen, tempers flare. If you mirror them, you lose control. If you anchor yourself, you become the still point around which the storm revolves. Great leaders don't need to shout to command attention. Their calm speaks louder than noise. Think of a Navy SEAL clearing a room. Chaos, danger, noise. But his breathing is steady, his scanning methodical, his voice calm in the radio. He doesn't feed the chaos, he regulates it. That's what you do in meetings, in families, in negotiations. You are the regulated presence others unconsciously sink to. Chris Voss, former FBI negotiator, diffused hostage situations not by threatening louder, but by listening deeper. He mirrored words, labeled emotions, and slowed the tempo. His calm disarmed fear. You don't need to negotiate hostages to use the same edge. Whether pitching an idea, diffusing conflict, or leading a tense family discussion, the tactics are identical. Lower your tone, mirror, label, pause. Reading the room isn't just a skill, it's an identity. You stop being the one tossed by emotional currents. You become the one who sees currents others ignore. This makes you the strategist in every social situation. People begin to look at you differently. They trust you more because you don't react impulsively. They follow you more because your presence makes them feel safe. 1. Practice the 30-second silence in every meeting. 2. After interactions, debrief yourself. What signals did I miss? What did I catch? What surprised me? 3. Journal emotional atmospheres. Rate rooms you enter from calm to chaotic, and note how your presence shifted them. 4. Build scripts. It seems like, or I get the sense, to use when tension rises. This isn't soft skill, it's hard strategy. When you can read people under pressure, you can shape outcomes others think are random. You don't let the room dictate your mood. You dictate the mood of the room. While others speak louder to feel powerful, you speak calmer to become powerful. While others rush to prove themselves, you slow down to see the truth. That's the difference between a participant and a tactician. The room is your battlefield. Emotions are your terrain. You are the commander who shapes both. Failure is inevitable. You've already faced it in small and large ways. Rejections, losses, missed chances, plans that collapsed despite your best effort. For most people, failure is the end of the road. They internalize it, wear it as identity, and allow it to shrink their future. But for a tactician, failure is never the end. It is intel. It is leverage. It is raw material for the next advance. You don't just bounce back. You bounce forward, stronger than before. Think of the difference. The average person sees failure as personal. I failed. Therefore, I am a failure. The tactician sees failure as situational. This plan failed. Therefore, I gained new data. That small shift turns shame into strategy, because setbacks are not signs of weakness. They are the proving ground where resilience is forged and where your edge sharpens. Let's break down the types of setbacks you'll encounter. First are execution errors. You had the right idea, but carried it out poorly. A flawed schedule, a weak delivery, sloppy preparation. These sting, but they're also the easiest to fix because you control the correction. Second are external disruptions, market crashes, sudden illness, global events, factors beyond your reach. Here, resilience is in adapting, not blaming. Third are misaligned strategies, chasing the wrong ladder, pursuing goals that don't serve your mission. These are painful because they waste time, but they are also gifts because they clarify direction. Each type demands a different response, but all share one truth: they are not final. Here's the golden rule: you don't fail if you learn something you can leverage. That's why tacticians never mourn losses longer than necessary. They mine them. Every misstep is debriefed, cataloged, and converted into doctrine. Where others collapse, tacticians build manuals. Let's make it practical. After a failure, run yourself through 7 tactical questions. 1. What exactly went wrong, and when did I know it? 2. What assumption turned out false? 3. What was within my control, and what wasn't? 4. Did I act too soon or wait too long? 5. What emotional state drove my choices? 6. What signal did I miss? 7. How do I turn this pain into a protocol? This is not wallowing. It's reconnaissance. Pain without reflection is just suffering. Pain with reflection becomes strategy. Consider the stories of those who mastered the comeback. Michael Jordan cut from his high school basketball team. He didn't sulk. He trained. Years later, he credited his relentless drive to that early rejection. Steve Jobs fired from Apple, the company he built. He returned years later and led it into its most legendary era, because he had used his exile to sharpen vision. Navy SEALs train failure deliberately into their regimen. Drills are designed to push them to collapse so they can practice recovery. They learn the rhythm, control your breath, reset your mind, re-enter the fight. That's resilience engineered, not left to chance. In your life, the same pattern applies. You don't pretend the failure didn't happen. You don't sugarcoat it with false positivity. You look it straight in the eye, extract the lesson, and reframe. Instead of, I blew it, you say, I exposed a weakness I now get to fix. Instead of, I'm behind, you say, I'm building from deeper ground. These aren't empty affirmations. They're tactical reframes. They change how your brain encodes the memory, turning it from a scar into a scar that strengthens. Let's drill this. Pick one recent setback, big or small. Write down the facts of what happened. Strip emotion. Then answer the 7 tactical questions. Finally, write one leverage statement. Because of this, I am now better at X. Title the entry, My Leverage Point. Each time you do this, you take back ground from shame and turn it into usable terrain. Now, let's extend this further. Don't just learn from your own failures. Study others. Brands that collapsed, leaders who fell, relationships that disintegrated. All are open textbooks. Ask, what signals did they ignore? What assumptions betrayed them? What pivot could have saved them? Every failure you study is one you don't need to repeat. That's how tacticians accelerate wisdom. You also need a rebound ritual. Reflection alone is not enough. You need steps that reset your system. Here's one model. Reflect. Write it down. Reframe. Shift the story. Reset. Take a physical or symbolic action that signals you're back in motion, whether it's cleaning your workspace, setting a new target, or calling an ally. This ritual becomes muscle memory. Failures stop being pits you fall into. They become platforms you bounce from. Here's another principle. Seek the seed of leverage. Ask, what can this loss make easier next time? Did rejection thicken your skin? Did a mistake clarify a blind spot? Did a delay force you to practice patience? Every loss plants a seed. If you water it, it grows into strength. If you ignore it, it rots. Now let's rewire your self-image. You are not the person who avoids failure. You are the person who metabolizes it. You don't hide scars. You carry them as evidence of training. Every loss adds to your armory. Every setback is not subtraction, but addition. More data, more resilience, more proof that you can be hit and keep moving. That identity makes you nearly untouchable, because once you believe, failure strengthens you. Nothing intimidates you anymore. Picture this mantra burned into your mind. Setbacks are setups. Pain is intel. Loss is leverage. With that, you never walk into the battlefield afraid of losing. You walk in ready to learn, ready to adapt, ready to use whatever happens as fuel. And that readiness itself gives you the edge. You've hardened your inner stance and learned to steer through storms. Now you must make the ground itself carry you. Terrain wins battles. High ground multiplies a small force. Swamp swallows a large one. In your life, terrain is every surface, screen, schedule, and relationship you stand on. If you leave it to chance, it becomes a minefield of friction. If you shape it with intent, it becomes a runway, short, smooth, and always pointing you toward your target. You stop relying on willpower and start relying on architecture. The rule is simple and ruthless. Make the right thing easy and the wrong thing hard. Begin with your physical command center, the room where you plan, think, and execute. Strip it to mission essentials, clear sightlines, clean surfaces, light you control, a chair that supports hours of precision. Adopt the quartermaster rule. Everything has a home, and it returns there after use. Set a ready rack. The tools you touch daily, notebook, pens, charger, headset, timer, staged within arm's reach, always in the same order, always ready for immediate launch. Build a cold start corner, a small, welcoming station that makes beginning a task frictionless. Open notebook to a pre-written prompt. Task card already clipped to a stand. Timer sitting at 25 hours. Pen uncapped. When you enter, you don't negotiate. You begin. Install a compass wall. 1 board, 3 columns. Target, in play, debrief. This is not art. It's operations. Targets are limited. 3, never more. Because attention fractures past that. In play holds the single task you're doing now, plus 1 staging task. Debrief stores quick lessons you capture the instant you finish. What worked, what jammed, what to change next iteration. Add WIP limits, work in progress caps, in big letters. You are building an air traffic control tower for your day, not a museum of sticky notes. Lay down choke points that shape movement. A standing mat by the desk so brief tasks stay brief. A stretch band hanging from the door to break up sedentary hours. A water bottle parked at the mousepad so hydration happens by reflex. Preposition your gear for the next evolution before you end the current one. Tomorrow's notes placed on the keyboard. Training shoes by the door. Lunch pack sitting in the fridge's go shelf. Nothing downrange, if nothing staged uprange. Shift to system fortresses. Routines that remove decision fatigue and stop leaks before they start. Install a morning brief, 10 minutes. Breathe. Scan compass wall. Set a single decisive outcome. Choose the one thing that, if moved, makes the day a win. Run a sit rep at midday. Quick status check. Green, amber, red. Then either push, pivot, or pause for recovery. Close with an end-of-day debrief. 7 minutes. Log wins. Capture frictions. Set the next cold start. Every Friday, conduct a ROC drill, rehearsal of concept. Walk your next week's big movements out loud. Who, what, when, dependencies, buffers. You'll hear the snags before they bite. Your digital terrain can be a weapons platform or a carnival ride. Demilitarize it. Create a notification DMZ, only calendar alerts, priority calls, and mission-critical messages may cross the wire. Everything else is batch processed in scheduled windows. Turn your phone's home screen into a tool belt. Camera, calendar, notes, timer, maps, health. Bury entertainment in a folder, 3 swipes deep, and label it with your mission. Nothing like opening break focus, break mission to remind you what you're trading. Set do not disturb battle windows. For example, 9 tower 11:30 and 14 tower 16 tower. Visible on your status so allies learn your rhythm. Cut tab sprawl with single theater operations. 1 browser for research, 1 for execution. Never both at once. Use full screen mode during deep work. Your brain should see 1 task, not a strip mall. Route every incoming item into a single inbox of capture, notes app, or email. Then triage with a 3-key SOP. Do. 2 minutes. Decide. Schedule. Defer. Park on compass wall. Create response templates for recurring messages. You are not paid to retype the same paragraph 20 times. Automate the obvious. Filters, rules, auto-archive. A machine should do what a machine can do. Map your battle rhythm across the week. Anchor keystone sessions, deep work blocks, training, family time. First, they are your non-negotiables. Paint them on the calendar like permanent lines. Surround them with support sessions, prep, errands, admin. Add recovery lanes, short walks, food windows, sunlight breaks, like refueling tracks for aircraft. Protect no-fly zones, the first 90 minutes of the morning, the 60 minutes before bed, the dinner hour. In these zones, nothing penetrates. No social media, no low-value calls, no back-to-back filler. If you let everything through the gate, nothing inside survives. Your ally network is part of terrain. Classify by role. Scouts, people who surface opportunities. Shield bearers, who protect your focus. Assistants, partners, gatekeepers. Engineers, who build processes and fix breakage. Medics, who maintain your health and mindset. Build cadence. Monthly council, with one scout to widen horizon. Weekly sync with a shield bearer to clear friction. Bi-weekly jam with an engineer to streamline. Standing check-ins with a medic, coach, or training partner to hold standards. Keep an operator index, a simple sheet of your top allies, their strengths, the value exchange, the cadence, so relationships are maintained deliberately, not left to drift. Set boundaries as infrastructure, not personal whims. A rule is only a rule if it is visible and enforceable. Post office hours on your calendar. Auto-reply during deep windows. Shared family board for commitments. And a clear yes-no ladder. What gets an immediate yes? What requires a 24-hour review? What gets a default no? Scripts reduce friction. I'd dilute quality if I accepted that this week. Here's a date that protects both our outcomes. Boundaries aren't walls. They're fences with gates you control. None of this works without deliberate recovery zones. Recovery is not retreat. It's reload. Build a night fortress. Tech off 1 hour before sleep. Lower lights. Journal a 3-line debrief. Lay out tomorrow's first move. Defense against blue light. Filters or glasses. Room at 18E, 20°C. Caffeine curfew 8 hours before pillow. Add a noon reset, 8 to 10 minutes. Box breathing or a brisk walk. Then protein and water. Twice a week. Schedule a longer reset, 45-60 minutes. Nature sauna or long zone 2 cardio to wash stress hormones. Weekly, execute a Sunday reset. Laundry, desk purge, food prep. Map the week. Set one intention for each domain. Work, body, family, craft. This is armor maintenance. Skip it, and your plates crack under the next volley. Put the model to ground with case runs. Case 1. Founder under fire. Her studio looks creative, but acts chaotic. She converts a wall into a compass board, caps targets to 3, and locks 2 deep work windows daily. Phone is exiled during those windows. Messages batch at 11:30 and 16:30. A ready rack keeps mic, camera, and batteries staged. Filming starts in under 2 minutes. No fiddling, no searching. She builds an ally ring, a shield bearer VA to guard her calendar, an engineer to template production, a scout editor who feeds trend intel, net effect, output doubles, stress drops, and launches happen on schedule because the terrain, not adrenaline, carries the weight. Case 2. ICU nurse on nights. Sleep was shattered. Focus thin. She builds a night fortress, blackout curtains, cool room, ear protection, caffeine curfew at 03 Muar, and a wind-down ritual at shift end. Meal prep goes to high protein, low sugar packs staged in a go drawer before each shift. Family communication moves to a shared board to protect recovery blocks. She adds 12-minute Zone 2 walks during breaks to reset. Result: steadier vitals, hers, and fewer errors on charting because the system shields cognition when the clock doesn't. Case 3. Student in noise, social feeds, open tabs, group chats, attention shredded. He installs single theater operations, one device for lectures, one for writing. Pomodoro timer mounts on the desk. After each session, a 3-bullet debrief hits the board. Phone goes to grayscale. Entertainment is rationed by design. 30 minutes after evening study, not before. A weekly ROC drill picks 3 non-negotiables and places them first. Grades rise not from cramming, but from a war map that turns study into rhythm. Because terrain fights back, you'll also plant tripwires and kill switches. Tripwires are visible thresholds that trigger corrective action. If unread emails exceed 100, you run a 30-minute triage. If sleep drops below 6.5 hours for 2 nights, you cancel late sessions. If your calendar shows 3 consecutive days without deep work, you take a meeting fast. Kill switches are pre-authorized cancels. The moment a project crosses a cost cap or violates an invariant, safety, ethics, family, you abort without debate. You do not argue with your own red lines. You designed them in calm to protect you under fire. Now harden your supply chain. Stock a resupply bin with doubles of the small items that stall momentum: cables, adapters, pens, legal pads, sticky notes, printer ink, protein packs. Nothing smothers a flow state faster than a missing cable. Store a go bag by the door: charger, notebook, noise-canceling headphones, water, electrolytes, a spare tea. Mobility is a force multiplier. If a space fails, you redeploy in minutes. Your language locks the environment. Namespaces by function: briefing desk, forge, recovery bay, and behavior follows the label. When you enter the forge, you forge. Place command cues: a small card reading "breathe, aim, 1 strike" at the monitor's base. No second screen during deep work, taped to the laptop edge. Phones live in the lobby, posted near the door. These are not cute. They are micro orders to your future self, delivered at the decisive second. Hold this mantra at the threshold. Terrain trains you. If your kitchen trains grazing, redesign it. If your desk trains drift, refit it. If your phone trains craving, rearm it. If your calendar trains surrender, redraw it. You are not at the mercy of your surroundings. You are the engineer who lays track for your own advance. And as your track extends, clean surfaces, visible targets, tight rhythms, clear gates, you stop fighting for momentum. Momentum fights for you. The fortress holds while you range farther. The war map stays readable even when the weather turns. You become the person whose life looks disciplined because it is designed, whose output seems effortless because the effort is carried by systems strong enough to bear it. Own the terrain, fortify the fortress, make the ground itself an ally, and you'll discover the simplest, fiercest advantage of all. You don't have to be extraordinary every day. Your environment does, and it never gets tired. You've built your fortress and fortified the terrain, but a tactician cannot fight alone. No matter how disciplined, no matter how resilient, no matter how adaptable, you are one human with limited energy, limited attention, limited hours. Armies win wars because they fight as units. Special forces win missions because they move as small, synchronized teams. Your success, too, depends on the allies you choose and the alliances you forge. The next evolution of your tactical mindset is this: build your strike team. Look around. Every day you interact with dozens of people: family, colleagues, clients, mentors, friends. Some sharpen you, some drain you, some distract you, some open doors. Most people float through these connections by default, without strategy. They give their time to whoever asks loudest. They seek approval instead of alignment. They confuse proximity with loyalty, and loyalty with effectiveness. The result? Their circle becomes a weight instead of a weapon. A tactician does the opposite. You deliberately design your network as carefully as you design your environment. You classify allies by role, cultivate bonds through discipline, and cut ties that sabotage the mission. It's not about being cold, it's about being clear, because your circle is either a shield wall or a breach. Scouts. These are the visionaries, the ones scanning the horizon, spotting opportunities before others do. A good scout saves you years of wandering. You don't rely on them for details. You rely on them for openings. Shield bearers. These are protectors. They defend your focus, guard your time, remind you of your standards. They are the ones who tell you no when you're tempted by distraction. Engineers. These are builders. They create systems, solve bottlenecks, and make things work smoother than you could alone. A single engineer ally can double your effectiveness by removing friction. Medics. These restore you. They don't let you run yourself into the ground. They remind you to eat, rest, laugh, breathe. A tactician without medics burns out and leaves the battlefield early. You don't need dozens of each. Even one strong ally in each role is enough to multiply your effectiveness. Choosing allies is step 1. Training them is step 2. No one knows your mission until you communicate it. Too many people complain about lack of support while keeping their objectives secret. Don't expect your allies to read your mind. Share your commander's intent. Tell them, here's my mission. Here's how you can help. Here's what I don't need. The clearer you are, the stronger they can stand with you. But clarity is not enough. You must invest. A relationship is a bank account. You cannot withdraw more than you deposit. Invest time, attention, gratitude. Train your instinct to notice when allies carry weight quietly, and honor them for it. Send the quick thank you text. Make the extra call. Buy the coffee. Loyalty is forged not in grand gestures, but in small, consistent acts. In combat sports, the fighter gets the spotlight. But every victory belongs also to the corner. The coach with the strategy, the cut man with the ice, the teammate holding pads for thousands of rounds. Without the corner, the fighter is exposed. With the corner, the fighter becomes lethal. Translate this to your life. You may be the one on stage, but your corner, your allies, are the difference between collapse and triumph. An entrepreneur I once knew nearly lost her company by trying to say yes to every opportunity. Her shield bearer, a tough-minded partner, forced her to create rules. 3 active projects at a time, no exceptions. At first she resisted, but when she complied, her stress plummeted, her focus sharpened, and the company scaled. One ally's discipline became her survival. 1. Ally audit. Write down the 10 people you spend most time with. Mark each with plus, sharpens. 0, neutral, drains. Commit to spending more time with at least 2 pluses and less with 2 minuses. This alone will shift your energy field. 2. Role fill. Ask yourself, do I have at least one scout, one shield bearer, one engineer, one medic? If not, where's the gap? Go looking intentionally, events, communities, networks, until you find the missing role. 3. Cadence contract. For each key ally, set a rhythm, weekly sync, monthly council, quarterly retreat. Don't leave it vague. Build it like a drill. Consistency builds trust. 4. Gratitude fire. Once a week, fire off 3 short messages of appreciation, not flattery. Specific recognition. Thanks for catching that detail. I noticed you stepped in when I was stretched. These deposits pay back with compound interest. 5. Red line protocol. Tell at least one shield bearer your personal invariance. How many hours of sleep you need. How many projects you can juggle. How many workouts you won't skip. Give them authority to call you out. Discipline multiplies when enforced by others. Stop seeing yourself as a lone operator. You are the nucleus of a unit. Your strength is multiplied by your allies. Your resilience is reinforced by their shields. Your vision is widened by their scouting. Your energy is restored by their care. This doesn't make you dependent. It makes you more dangerous. Because with the right allies, you can push farther, recover faster, and win battles others can't even fight. The mission is mine. The march is ours. With that mantra, you stop pretending you can carry everything alone. You lead, but you allow others to strengthen you. You don't scatter your loyalty randomly. You forge it like steel. And when the world throws its hardest storms, you will not stand alone in the rain. You will stand shield to shield with those you've trained to fight beside you. You've built internal discipline, mastered external terrain, and forged a circle of allies who multiply your strength. But even the most prepared tactician faces the inevitable enemy that creeps in quietly, unnoticed, until it erodes entire campaigns. Fatigue, not just tiredness, but deep depletion of mind, body, and spirit. And here lies a paradox. The harder you push, the more you need to recover. Yet most people treat recovery as weakness, as if resting means quitting. Tacticians know better. Recovery is not retreat. It is refueling the arsenal. Think of the archer who draws their bow without pause. The string frays. The arrow loses power. The shot veers off course. But the archer who maintains their bow oils the string, checks the tension. That archer strikes true every time. You are the weapon, and maintenance is non-negotiable. The world praises hustle, late nights, endless grind. But what it doesn't show is the casualties, the broken health, the fractured focus, the lives collapsed under exhaustion. History proves it. Armies that march without rest collapse long before meeting the enemy. Athletes who overtrain without recovery end up sidelined. Leaders who work without pause make rash, costly mistakes. Fatigue is a silent assassin, and it strikes those who mistake activity for effectiveness. Recovery is deliberate, structured, and tactical. It's not collapsing on the couch at midnight scrolling through noise. It's designing recovery zones as carefully as training zones. There are 4 domains you must fortify. 1. Physical recovery, sleep, nutrition, movement, not glamorous, but decisive. Sleep is not downtime. It is neural sharpening. Every night, your brain consolidates memory. Your body repairs tissue. Your immune system reloads. Neglect sleep, and you operate like a soldier on faulty comms. Nutrition is not indulgence. It is fuel. Garbage in, garbage out. Movement is not punishment. It is restoration. Walk, stretch, mobilize. Treat your body like the machine that carries you through battle. 2. Mental recovery. Your brain is not built for non-stop fire. You must schedule mental off-duty time. That means deliberate disconnection, reading for pleasure, journaling, stepping into nature, not idleness, renewal. Think of it as clearing the battlefield maps so the next mission is drawn fresh. 3. Emotional recovery. Stress is cumulative. Every unprocessed frustration, fear, or doubt lingers like a mine left buried. Tacticians diffuse them daily through honest conversation, reflective writing, or even tactical solitude. Left unchecked, suppressed emotions sabotage strategy, process them, and they fuel clarity instead of chaos. 4. Spiritual recovery. Whatever your beliefs, you need anchoring beyond the daily grind. This could be prayer, meditation, mindfulness, or quiet reflection on purpose. Without grounding, you drift. With grounding, you endure storms that break others. History remembers Napoleon's march into Russia. His forces, strong and vast, suffered not because of enemy brilliance, but because of exhaustion, starvation, and the brutal winter. His troops were unprepared to recover in hostile terrain. Contrast this with armies that rotated units, protected supply lines, and ensured rest. They preserved strength even when outnumbered. Recovery is not luxury, it is survival. A CEO I once coached believed recovery was weakness. 12-hour days, 7-day weeks. Revenue grew, then plateaued. His decisions got sloppy, his team disengaged, and his health collapsed. After forced medical leave, he returned with a new rule: structured recovery, 8 hours of sleep, 1 tech-free weekend day, monthly retreats. Within a year, both his energy and his company's growth rebounded. The pause fueled the push. 1. Sleep protocol. Treat bedtime like a mission. No screens 1 hour prior. Set the environment: cool, dark, silent. Choose a wind-down ritual. Read, stretch, journal. Target 7 to 9 hours. Guard it like gold. 2. 90-minute reset. Every 90 minutes of focused work, pause for 5 to 10 minutes. Walk, hydrate, breathe. This resets your nervous system. Elite performers use cycles, not marathons, to sustain focus. 3. Weekly Sabbath. Designate 1 day or half day as tactical disengagement. No work, no strategy, no hustle. Re-engage in play, family, nature. Counterintuitive? Yes. Effective? Always. 4. Emotional debrief. Each evening, write down 1 frustration, 1 fear, 1 gratitude. This simple ritual prevents buildup, clears the mind, and reinforces balance. 5. Anchor ritual. Start each morning with a grounding practice. Could be breathwork, prayer, or 3 minutes of silence. You don't launch missions blind. You anchor, then act. You stop seeing recovery as indulgence. You see it as ammunition. Every hour of disciplined rest sharpens your edge. Every day of structured renewal lengthens your campaign. You are not weaker for pausing. You are stronger for reloading. Your enemies, stress, chaos, fatigue, depend on your negligence. When you refuse to neglect, you deny them victory. I recover to remain relentless. Hold to this mantra, and you will endure where others collapse. Because battles are not won by the soldier who sprints fastest at dawn. They are won by the soldier who still has strength at dusk. Your goal is not to shine for a moment, but to last for the war. And recovery is the discipline that ensures you will. You've trained the mind, mastered the terrain, built the alliance, and learned the art of recovery. But the tactical mindset doesn't end with resilience or adaptation. It culminates in command. You are no longer just reacting to life's chaos. You are orchestrating it. This final section is about claiming your role as strategist-in-chief, designing not only your days, but your destiny with the precision of a general, mapping a campaign. The truth is, most people drift. They wake up to alarms they resent, follow routines designed by chance, chase goals imposed by culture, and wonder why they feel off course. They are soldiers without maps, captains without compasses. Tacticians refuse to drift. They take command. They turn vague desires into concrete missions, random actions into deliberate drills, passing days into steps on a long march toward a chosen victory. Generals don't just think about the next skirmish. They zoom out. They ask, what is the war? What terrain must be held? What alliances must be forged? What supply lines must be secured? Translate that into your life. What is your ultimate mission? What terrain, habits, skills, environments do you need to dominate? Who are the allies you need? What resources must you guard? Without these questions, you'll keep reacting. With them, you'll keep advancing. Think of Eisenhower before D-Day. His map wasn't one arrow to one beach. It was contingencies, logistics, supply chains, backup routes, deception campaigns. He knew no plan would survive contact, but the mission would. That's the tactician's secret: loyalty to outcome, flexibility in method. 1. Mission clarity. Write down your ultimate objectives, not fuzzy wishes, but sharp missions. Build a body capable of 10 years of endurance. Create financial independence within 5 years. Lead a family marked by strength and connection. These are missions, not wishes. 2. Campaign design. Break missions into campaigns, 90-day operations with specific goals. Campaigns give urgency without overwhelming you with the entire war. 3. Drill systems. For each campaign, establish drills. Daily or weekly actions so small, they're unavoidable. So consistent, they compound. Drills replace willpower. 4. Intel loops. Build reflection into your command system. Weekly reviews. Monthly recalibrations. This is your OODA loop applied to life. Observe, orient, decide, act. 5. Victory protocol. Define in advance what success looks like. Too many people grind endlessly because they never define enough. Tacticians define it, hit it, and then redirect resources to the next mission. Pilots face immense complexity, thousands of variables, constant risks. Yet they rely on simple checklists, not because they lack intelligence, but because they respect complexity. The checklist externalizes memory, removes ego, and creates precision. Apply the same. Build checklists for your campaigns, morning routines, weekly reviews, decision rules. The more complex life gets, the more valuable your checklists become. Consider an architect designing a skyscraper. Without a blueprint, chaos reigns. Misaligned beams, wasted material, collapse. With a blueprint, hundreds of workers coordinate seamlessly. Your life is no different. Without a blueprint, you waste years. With one, your time, allies, habits, and energy align toward a structure that endures. 1. Mission map. Take one blank sheet. Draw 3 concentric circles. Inner, daily drills. Middle, campaigns. Outer, missions. Populate each. Review weekly. 2. Red team. Invite an ally to challenge your assumptions once a month. Let them ask. What blind spots are you missing? Where are you too rigid? Red teams save generals from arrogance. 3. Nightly debrief. Before sleep, answer 3 questions. What did I execute today? What needs course correction? What's tomorrow's single highest priority? This keeps you in command, not drift. 4. Quarterly reset. Every 90 days, step away. Review the past campaign. Archive what worked. Discard what failed. Launch the next with sharpened focus. The tactical mindset is no longer a set of tools for you. It is your identity. You don't just practice drills, you live them. You don't just survive setbacks, you transform them. You don't just adapt, you command. You are the general of your life. Calm is your superpower. Clarity is your weapon. Strategy is your war map. And no matter the storm, you remain one step ahead. I do not drift. I command. Hold that mantra. Breathe it. Live it. Because the moment you stop drifting and start commanding, you stop being a player in someone else's game. You become the tactician of your own war. The march is complete. You've crossed 13 sections of training, each one a campaign that hardened your mind, sharpened your tools, and forged a new identity. Pause for a moment. Feel it. The weight you carried at the beginning is not the same as what you carry now. That weight has transformed. It's no longer chaos pressing against you. It's armor fitted to you. Think back to the first drills, pausing instead of panicking, slowing down when the world sped up, thinking in contingencies instead of catastrophes. You've layered on tactical self-talk, micro-battles, patience under fire, adaptability like a general, awareness that reads every room, resilience that turns losses into leverage, fortresses of environment, alliances of steel, and recovery zones that refuel you. At every stage, the lesson was the same. You are not at the mercy of chaos. You are the commander of response. This audiobook was never meant to give you comfort. It was meant to give you command. That's why the tone was sharp, the drills relentless, the mantras repeated like orders in boot camp. Because discipline is not born from casual advice. Discipline is forged in training, and that's exactly what you've completed. Now the question shifts, not what do I know, but who am I becoming? You are no longer just a listener. You are a tactician. That identity is the real victory. Tools can be forgotten, frameworks can be misplaced, but identity remains. When you tell yourself, I am a tactician, your decisions bend toward strength, your focus sharpens, your posture changes, chaos tests you, and you stand ready. Carry forward 3 truths that sum up the tactical mindset. Calm is a superpower. When others spin out, you breathe. Calmness is not softness. It is control under fire. It makes you unshakable. Clarity is a weapon. Noise blinds most people. But you see the map, the terrain, the hidden doors. Clarity cuts through drama and reveals direction. Strategy wins the war. Not luck, not sheer force. Strategy, the deliberate sequencing of moves that compounds into inevitability. This is your final drill. Every morning, remind yourself, I am the tactician of my own life. Scan the terrain, choose your mission, execute with calm precision, and when setbacks come, as they always do, remember, they are not defeat. They are data. They are signals. They are invitations to pivot, adapt, and strike back sharper. You don't need perfection. You don't need permission. You need command. And now, you have it. So step out of this audiobook not as a consumer of words, but as a commander of actions. Live tactically, lead deliberately, move one step ahead, always. Because the world doesn't reward the frantic, it rewards the focused. And you, tactician, are ready.